First Contact's Folly. Admiral Kexnar of the Zahiran Empire stood motionless before the quantum display, his iridescent scales reflecting the holographic stars that filled the command center. 6 arms, each adorned with ceremonial rings marking his victories, clasped behind his back as he studied the peculiar readings from the scout probe. "Impossible," he muttered, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Run the analysis again." His senior analyst, Verthi, nervously adjusted her sensor arrays. "The readings are consistent, Admiral. The human ships, they're organic, at least partially." Kexnar's upper eyes narrowed while his lower set remained fixed on the display. The Zahiran Empire had conquered 17 star systems, each falling before their superior crystalline technology and unmatched computational might. Their ships were mathematical perfection, geometric forms of living crystal powered by quantum cores. Every race they'd encountered had followed the same technological path, developing increasingly complex mineral-based technologies. But these humans, their ships looked wrong. They were asymmetrical, flowing things with curves that seemed to pulse and shift. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the Imperial database. "Show me their weapons," Kexnar commanded, certain this would reveal the primitive's true nature. The holographic display shifted, highlighting the human vessel's armaments. No particle accelerators, no quantum lances, not even basic plasma arrays. Instead, the ships bristled with what appeared to be biological launch tubes and organic energy projectors. Laughter erupted from Kexnar's throat sacs. "They're flying around in glorified space whales. Verthi, do you mean to tell me these creatures have somehow managed interstellar travel by growing their ships instead of building them properly? The biological components appear to be integrated with advanced technology, Admiral. But yes, they seem to have taken an unusual evolutionary path." Kexnar waved 2 of his arms dismissively. "A dead-end path. The limitations of organic computing alone make their ships inferior by definition. They've obviously reached the limits of their development. A curiosity, nothing more." He moved closer to the display, studying the human fleet's formations around their colony worlds. Their ships moved in strange patterns, like schools of fish or flocks of birds. Primitive, instinctual behavior rather than proper military precision. "Prepare a conquest fleet," he commanded. "Nothing too excessive. We don't want to waste resources. A single battle group should be sufficient to demonstrate our superiority and convince them to submit to Imperial rule." Verthi's scales shifted to a worried shade of blue. "Admiral, our analysis of their communication intercepts suggests they may be more advanced than their ship's appearance indicates. Perhaps we should." "Enough." Kexnar cut her off with a sharp gesture. "I've conquered species with crystalline warships the size of moons. I will not be counseled to fear creatures who grow their vessels like garden plants." He turned to his command staff, all 6 arms spread wide in a gesture of absolute authority. "The Empire's path is the only path to true technological advancement. These humans have clearly taken a wrong turn in their evolution, and we shall educate them in proper civilization. Prepare the fleet for departure in 6 cycles." As his officers hurried to comply, Kexnar returned his gaze to the display. The human ships continued their strange, flowing movements. For a moment, something about their organic grace sent a shiver down his spinal ridge, an ancient instinct warning of predators in deep waters. He dismissed the feeling. After all, what threat could biological ships pose to the crystalline might of the Zahiran Empire? These humans would learn their place in the universe, just as all others had before them. The Empire would give them the gift of proper civilization, whether they wanted it or not. What Kexnar couldn't know was that humanity had long ago discovered something his empire had missed. Nature had spent billions of years solving problems that technology was still struggling to understand. The humans hadn't rejected advanced technology. They'd merged with it in ways the crystal-loving Zahirans couldn't comprehend. And like all apex predators, they did not advertise their true capabilities. The silent response. Captain Sarah Chen stood within the neural interface chamber of the UES Nautilus. Her consciousness merged with the ship's hybrid nervous system. Through the bioquantum link, she felt every aspect of her vessel, from the crystalline enhanced myomer muscles that powered its movement to the engineered photosynthetic arrays that supplemented its energy reserves. The Zahiran fleet would arrive in less than 6 hours. Their transmissions, broadcast with the casual arrogance of assumed superiority, had been intercepted days ago. Their intentions were clear: another empire coming to civilize humanity. Status of the bioshields? Sarah asked, her thoughts resonating through the ship's neural network. Operating at peak efficiency, Captain. Lieutenant Paddle responded through the interface. The outer dermis has fully integrated the new adaptive camouflage proteins. We can mask 98% of our energy signatures. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Zahirans, with their rigid crystalline technology, would be looking for familiar energy patterns, the kind produced by conventional engines and shield generators. They wouldn't be prepared for ships that could actively camouflage their emissions like deep-sea creatures hiding their bioluminescence. Through her neural link, Sarah reached out to the other ships in her battle group: the destroyer Kraken, the frigates Cephalopod and Leviathan, and 6 corvettes of the Remora class, all of them transformed from their usual biological appearance into seemingly dead matter, floating like debris in the asteroid field near Jupiter's L4 point. Admiral James Martinez's voice echoed through the neural network. All ships, final briefing. The Zahirans expect us to either flee or engage them in conventional combat. Their entire strategic doctrine is based on overwhelming force and geometric precision. They've never encountered an enemy that thinks like we do. Sarah felt the collective agreement ripple through the fleet's shared consciousness. Humanity had learned long ago that nature's solutions were often superior to engineered ones. While other species built rigid ships of crystal and metal, humans had studied the most successful organisms on Earth and applied those lessons to space. Their ships' outer hulls contained engineered chromatophores like those of octopi, allowing them to change color and pattern at will. Muscle fibers based on hackfish proteins could instantly alter the ship's shapes. Neural networks derived from corvid brains handled complex decision-making faster than any conventional computer. Remember, Martinez continued, we are the products of 4 billion years of evolutionary combat testing. Every predator, every prey animal, every survival adaptation that Earth produced is part of our arsenal now. The Zahirans think they're hunting garden slugs. Let's show them they're dealing with wolves. Sarah ran final checks on her ship's systems. The bioengineered weapon pods were primed, filled with intelligent missiles that incorporated both machine learning and genetic memory. The quantum-enhanced myomer muscles were tensed, ready to move the ship with the explosive speed of a striking mantis shrimp. Most importantly, the crew was fully integrated with their vessel. Unlike the Zahirans, who saw their ships as tools to be commanded, humanity had learned to become one with their vessels. Each ship was a living community, a symbiotic relationship between human consciousness and engineered biology. They're entering the outer system, one of the sensor operators reported. 8 capital ships, 24 escorts. Standard geometric formation. They're not even trying to mask their approach. Sarah felt the collective anticipation building through the neural network. The Zahirans would expect them to be waiting in formal battle lines, ready to exchange fire like proper civilized beings. Instead, humanity's ships lay scattered and hidden, mimicking natural debris, waiting like ambush predators. All ships, maintain emissions control, Martinez ordered. Let them come to us. Remember your assigned targets and trust your training. We've spent centuries perfecting this approach while they've spent their time building prettier crystals. Through the neural link, Sarah felt her crew's readiness. They weren't just operating a ship, they were part of it. Every person's consciousness was integrated into the whole, sharing information and reactions at the speed of thought. The Nautilus wasn't just a vessel, it was an extension of their collective will. The Zahiran fleet grew closer, their crystalline ships arranging themselves in mathematically perfect formations. Their sensors swept the area with powerful but predictable patterns, looking for the energy signatures of proper warships. They didn't notice how the scattered debris of the asteroid field seemed to pulse with subtle bioluminescence, like deep-sea creatures communicating in the dark. They didn't recognize the significance of the organic patterns that mimicked natural space phenomena. Sarah watched through her ship's enhanced senses as the enemy fleet approached their carefully laid trap. The Zahirans were about to learn that humanity's primitive biological ships were the product of combining technology not with crystals, but with 4 billion years of combat evolution. Nature had already solved the problems of survival, adaptation, and warfare. Humanity had simply been smart enough to learn from it. Dance of the Fireflies. Admiral Kexnar's first indication that something was wrong came when his fleet's sensors registered a brief flash of bioluminescence, like 1,000 fireflies blinking in perfect synchronization. By then, it was already too late. The debris field erupted into motion. What had appeared to be lifeless rocks and ice suddenly pulsed with organic energy as humanity's ships shed their camouflage. They moved with impossible speed, their bioengineered hulls rippling with muscle contractions that accelerated them faster than any conventional engine. Evasive action. Kexnar bellowed, but his crystalline ships, designed for geometric precision rather than agility, could barely begin their turns before the human vessels were upon them. The UES Nautilus led the charge, its hull transforming from dull brown to electric blue as it activated its combat systems. Captain Sarah Chen, one with her ship through the neural interface, directed their attack with the instincts of a natural predator. The Nautilus's biological weapon pods opened like blooming flowers, launching swarms of intelligent missiles that moved like schools of fish, adapting their attack patterns in real time. Impossible, Verthi whispered as she watched the tactical display. Their missiles are communicating with each other, coordinating like a hive mind. The Zahiran fleet's point defense systems, designed to track and intercept conventional weapons, struggled to target missiles that moved with organic unpredictability. For every missile they destroyed, 2 more adjusted their trajectory, learning from their fallen companion's fate. Kexnar watched in horror as the first wave of missiles struck one of his escort ships. Instead of conventional explosions, the missiles latched onto the crystalline hull like parasites, extending microscopic filaments that began breaking down the ship's structure at the molecular level. "What kind of weapons are these?" he demanded. His weapons officer's scales had turned pale with fear. "They appear to be some sort of engineered bacterial colony, combined with nanotechnology. They're eating through our hulls." The human ships pressed their advantage, moving with a fluid grace that made them seem more like deep-sea predators than space vessels. The smaller Remora-class corvettes darted between the Zahiran ships like pilot fish, their advanced ECM systems confusing the crystal ships' targeting computers with patterns based on the electric fields of marine animals. Sarah Chen directed the Nautilus in a spiral attack pattern around the largest Zahiran vessel, her ship's chromatophores flashing in patterns that interfered with the enemy's crystal-based sensors. Through her neural link, she coordinated with the other human ships, their collective consciousness allowing them to execute complex maneuvers with perfect synchronization. "Their formations are breaking down," Admiral Martinez observed through the fleet's shared neural network. "They can't maintain their geometric patterns against organic movement they can't predict." The Zahiran ships, trying to maintain their mathematically perfect formations, found themselves instead in a chaotic dance they were never designed for. Their crystal-based computers, optimized for calculating precise energy weapon trajectories, struggled to track targets that moved like living creatures rather than machines. Kexnar watched as another of his ships succumbed to the human bioweapons. The mighty crystalline vessel, pride of the Imperial fleet, was being systematically broken down by engineered organisms that had evolved from Earth's most efficient decomposers. "Launch the drone fighters," he ordered, desperate to regain the initiative. Swarms of crystalline drones emerged from the Zahiran capital ships, their formation perfect and precise. The human response came in the form of the UES Kraken releasing its own counter-swarm. But instead of drones, the destroyer launched clouds of what appeared to be glowing spores. These bioengineered defensive organisms, based on box jellyfish, stinging cells combined with advanced nanites, created an impenetrable barrier that short-circuited any crystal-based technology that passed through them. "Admiral," Verthi reported, her voice shaking, "we're losing drone control across all squadrons. Their defensive cloud is somehow interfering with our quantum control signals." Sarah Chen felt a grim satisfaction through her neural link as she watched the Zahiran drones fall into disarray. The enemy had expected a conventional battle between technological equals. Instead, they were facing the combined might of human innovation and natural evolution's most successful adaptations. Through the quantum-enhanced nervous system of her ship, she could feel the battle's tide turning. The Zahiran fleet's rigid formations had been shattered, their perfectly arranged ships now scattered like broken crystal. Their technological superiority, based on mathematical precision and crystalline computing, meant nothing against weapons and defenses that operated on organic principles they couldn't understand. Nature had spent billions of years perfecting the art of survival, adaptation, and warfare. Humanity had simply been wise enough to learn from those lessons instead of trying to impose geometric perfection on the chaos of space. Pride's reckoning. Admiral Kexnar's command center was in chaos. The pristine crystalline displays that normally showed perfect geometric battle formations now depicted scattered remnants of his once proud fleet. Warning signals pulsed through the quantum network as more ships reported critical failures in their systems. "Full power to shields," he ordered, all 6 arms gesturing frantically at different control interfaces. "Reconfigure our crystal matrices to generate random energy patterns. Don't give their organic weapons a stable target to lock onto." But the humans had anticipated this strategy. The UES cephalopod and Leviathan executed a pincer movement that would have been impossible for conventional ships, their bioengineered hulls contorting in ways that defied structural physics. They released clouds of engineered microorganisms that began to resonate at the exact frequency of the Zahiran shields, creating cascading harmonic disruptions. "Admiral," Verthi called out, her scales now a sickly shade of gray. "They're not just using biological weapons. They're evolving them during combat. The microorganisms are adapting to our countermeasures in real time." Kexnar watched in horror as the human ships demonstrated capabilities that shattered every preconception he'd held about technological advancement. Their vessels moved like living creatures, thinking and adapting with an organic fluidity that made his crystal ships seem primitive and sluggish by comparison. Through the quantum sensors, he observed the human flagship Nautilus as it orchestrated the assault. Its hull rippled with patterns of bioluminescence that seemed to coordinate the entire human fleet's movements. Unlike the rigid command structure of the Zahiran forces, the human ships operated with the synchronized grace of a single organism. "Launch our remaining quantum torpedoes," Kexnar commanded, desperation evident in his voice. "Full spread, maximum yield. Let's see how their organic hulls handle pure energy weapons." The Zahiran capital ships released their most powerful weapons, beautiful crystalline projectiles that warped spacetime itself. But the human response proved once again that they had studied nature's answers to every challenge. Captain Sarah Chen, sensing the attack through her neural link, directed the Nautilus in a maneuver inspired by the humble sea cucumber. The ship's bioengineered hull temporarily liquefied, allowing the quantum torpedoes to pass harmlessly through its structure before it reformed, completely undamaged. Impossible. Kexnar's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. No material can simply change states like that. "Sir," Verthi interrupted, "you need to see this." She projected a detailed scan of the human ship's internal structure. Their technology isn't separate from their biology. It's completely integrated. The crystalline components we detected, they're grown, not manufactured. They've developed some kind of biocrystalline hybrid technology that combines the best of both approaches. The revelation hit Kexnar like a physical blow. The Zahiran Empire had spent millennia perfecting crystal technology, believing it represented the peak of technological advancement. But these humans hadn't rejected advanced technology as he'd first assumed. They'd found a way to merge it with organic systems in ways his people had never imagined. All ships fall back to defensive formation Delta, he ordered, but even as he gave the command, he watched another of his crystal ships succumb to the human bioweapons. The engineered organisms had evolved past their initial molecular breakdown approach and were now converting the ship's crystalline structure into organic matter. Sarah Chen felt the battle's momentum through the Nautilus's neural network. The Zahiran fleet's rigid tactics were falling apart as they faced an enemy that fought like nature itself, adaptable, unpredictable, and ruthlessly efficient. Admiral Martinez, she communicated through the fleet's shared consciousness. Their flagship is attempting to rally their remaining forces. Permission to demonstrate our latest adaptation. Granted, Captain, Martins responded. Show them why Earth's oceans prepared us for space better than any engineering program could have. The Nautilus's hull began to pulse with a new pattern of bioluminescence, this one based on the hypnotic displays of cuttlefish. Complex quantum calculations, processed through organic neural networks, created interference patterns that began to disrupt the Zahiran ship's crystalline computing cores. Their crystal matrices are destabilizing, Lieutenant Pottle reported through the neural link. The bioquantum pulses are forcing their systems to try to adapt to organic patterns they were never designed to process. Kexnar watched helplessly as his ship's perfect crystalline formations began to crack and fragment under the assault. The humans hadn't just developed a different kind of technology. They'd discovered an entirely new path of evolution, one that merged the precision of crystal computing with the adaptability of organic life. And his empire, for all its supposed superiority, had never even considered such a possibility. Evolution's children. The battle was over. The remaining Zahiran ships hung motionless in space, their once perfect crystalline forms now dulled and fractured. Admiral Kexnar stood in his command center, watching through damaged sensors as the human vessels regrouped, their hulls shifting from combat patterns back to their normal flowing forms. "They're hailing us," Verthi reported quietly. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Captain Sarah Chen. She had disconnected from her neural interface, but Kexnar could still see faint bioluminescent patterns flowing beneath her skin, a sign of how deeply humanity had integrated with their hybrid technology. "Admiral Kexnar," she began, her voice carrying none of the expected triumphalism. "I trust you now understand that the Zahiran Empire's assumption about technological evolution was incomplete." Kexnar's scales shifted to a shade of deep blue, a color of recognition and humility in his species. "How?" he asked simply. "How did your species develop such a different path?" "We look to our own world for answers," Sarah explained. "Earth's oceans taught us that nature had already solved most of the problems we were struggling with. While other species focused on imposing order through crystalline technology, we studied the chaos and beauty of evolution." Admiral Martinez joined the transmission. "Your empire saw our biological ships as primitive because they didn't match your definition of advancement. But nature spent billions of years perfecting adaptation, survival, and efficiency. We simply learned to work with it rather than trying to replace it." Through his damaged sensors, Kexnar watched as one of the human ships approached a wounded Zahiran vessel. Instead of attacking, it extended tendrils of bioengineered material that began repairing the crystal structure. "What are you doing?" he asked, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Helping," Sarah replied simply. "The same engineered organisms that can break down your ships can also repair them. Nature is neither good nor evil, Admiral. It simply is. The same principles that make an organism deadly can also make it nurturing." Verthi moved closer to her displays, fascination overcoming her fear. "These readings, Your ships aren't just biological constructs with technological components. They're true hybrids, a perfect synthesis of organic and crystalline systems. Yes, Martinez confirmed. We discovered that crystals grown through biological processes could achieve computational speeds far beyond artificial manufacturing. By combining this with organic neural networks, we created systems that have both the precision of crystal technology and the adaptability of living organisms. Kexnar watched as more human ships began assisting his damaged fleet. Their hybrid technology worked at the molecular level, teaching the crystalline structures to accept organic integration, rather than forcing them to change. Your empire believes that technological advancement means moving away from nature, Sarah continued. We discovered that true advancement means understanding and working with it. Every human ship is a living ecosystem, a partnership between human consciousness, engineered biology, and grown crystal matrices. Through the quantum link, Kexnar could feel his ships changing as the human hybrid technology interfaced with them. The rigid crystal matrices were learning to flex and adapt while maintaining their computational precision. It was like watching evolution happen in real time. "We're not here to conquer you, Admiral," Martine stated. "We're here to show you a different path, one where technology and nature work together instead of opposing each other. Your empire has achieved incredible things with crystal technology. Imagine what you could accomplish by combining it with the lessons nature has to teach." For the first time in his long career, Kexnar felt something he hadn't experienced since he was a young officer: wonder. The humans hadn't rejected advanced technology as he'd first thought. They'd transcended it, finding a way to merge the best aspects of natural and artificial systems. "Your ships," he said slowly, "they're not weapons or tools. They're the next step in evolution." Sarah nodded. "Every human ship is alive in a way your empire never considered possible. We don't command them. We work with them, grow with them, evolve with them. And we're offering your people the chance to do the same." As Kexnar watched his fleet being transformed by the human hybrid technology, he understood that this defeat marked not an end, but a beginning. The Zahiran Empire had prided itself on forcing the galaxy to conform to its vision of proper civilization. Now, they were being offered the opportunity to learn a fundamental truth that humanity had discovered long ago. The path to the stars led not through conquering nature, but through embracing it.